living in Sibley County with the pandemic and things shutting down, it has really been a lifesaver for all of us here who have it and have been able to utilize it.
Welcome to episode 440 of the Community Broadband Bits podcast. This is Rye Marketilio McCracken here at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. Today, Christopher talks with two representatives from RS Fiber, a cooperative bringing internet access to almost 3,000 members in Renville and Sibley counties in the great state of Minnesota. Our first guest is Jake Reekie, a corn and soybean farmer and board chair for RS Fiber. We're also joined by Jenny Palmer, city administrator for Winthrop and treasurer for the cooperative. Christopher, Jake, and Jenny talk about the trials that shaped a network which fostered some division, but which the community now takes for granted. Its hybrid fiber and wireless approach to connectivity, what having fast, affordable broadband has done for families and businesses in the area, and where the network sits financially, moving ahead as it continues to expand and see robust, steady growth. Now here's Christopher talking with Jake and Jenny.
Welcome to another episode of the Community Broadband Bits podcast. I'm Christopher Mitchell at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance in St. Paul, Minnesota. And today we're going to dig into one of my favorite projects of all time in Minnesota, the RS Fiber Cooperative. Let me start by introducing Jake Reekie, the board chair and a corn and soybean farmer. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be here.
And we also have Jenny Palmer, city administrator for the city of Winthrop, which was one of the major cities pushing this forward from the beginning. Jenny is also the treasurer for RS Fiber. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here.
Mighty Winthrop.
Yes, mighty Winthrop.
I've like I said, I love this project. I know I kind of understand a little bit. I shouldn't say I really know what you went through in all those years organizing for this network. But let me ask you for a quick history of it, Jake, and also just looking at the sharp video that you're sending right now. Obviously, something's gone very right. So how did this all start?
The very first rumblings of it kind of started back in 2008, 2009, 2010 timeframe, and right around the 2010 timeframe is when it started to hit the public side, and that's when informational meetings started to happen, and the word started getting out that something, a potential project here was in the works. But basically, from 2010 until about the 2014 timeframe, the project went through various iterations of how it was going to be financed, who was going to own it, who was going to have control over it. And ultimately, in 2014 is when they decided to turn it into a cooperative, whereby the cities would lend money to the cooperative, and the cooperative will go out and leverage that initial financing to take on senior secured financing in order to finance the construction of the network. So it ended up being a partnership between cities, Hiawatha Broadband Communications, and RS Fiber Cooperative. So you've basically got three entities involved, two of them private entities and one of the public joint powers board, which is a part of the financing side of it. The public financing side of it. So in 2014 is when they finally landed on a financing model, and it took about another year to finalize and actually close on that financing. And in 2015 is when the first customers started getting hooking up, and the construction of the network really took hold in 2015. That was the year that we brought in fiber from the southeast corner of Sibley County, brought it into Winthrop, and that was our backbone. And from Winthrop, we sent fiber over to Gaylord and started building out the internal backbone on our network. So at the end of at the end of 2015, we had Winthrop and Gaylord ready to start hooking up customers. And we hooked up about 81 that year. At the end of 2015, we had approximately 81 customers were connected to the network. Also in 2015, we built the wireless side of it, and it wasn't totally built out in that first year. But between 2015 and 2016, we had the majority of Sibley County and a portion of Renville County covered on the wireless side. So the rural folks could start connecting using fixed terrestrial wireless. So in the cities, you had the fiber to the home networks, and out in the rural side, you had the fixed wireless side.
It's a very good history, and I think we can avoid digging in any deeper because somebody wrote a brilliant case study on RS fiber called "Fertile Fields" for people who really want to dig in. And we've had several folks from RS fiber over the years on the show to talk about it. Like I said, I mean, this is RS for Renville, Sibley. We're talking about real strong ag producer counties in Minnesota, mostly communities around in Sibley, with some in the eastern part of Renville, and I have to ask Jenny, is this everything you dreamed it would be? I mean, we had pretty big dreams. Y'all, there was big expectations, and here we are, many years into it.
I had probably bigger dreams, but this has worked out very well, and I can't tell you how grateful we are to have it in this time of our living in Sibley County with the pandemic and things shutting down. It has really been a lifesaver for all of us here who have it and have been able to utilize it.
Yeah, I think we'll discuss a number of different angles about how to evaluate the network, but I mean, I think one of the things that has always stuck with me was this sense that the network was clearly about bringing good quality connectivity to the areas, both in the cities and the more rural areas in the counties. And it looks to me like that has been met. I mean, again, I'll just come back to, I think Jake might have better video than I do, so.
Yeah, not only the cities, but with the wireless, the things they've been able to do to bring that kind of connectivity to the rural areas as quickly as they have without building the backbone out there. They really do have superior service on the air side as well.
And is this something what's the community read on this? Is this something that people are pretty supportive of? Are there divisions? How did it fall down now that there's actually a product to argue over?
It's still considered a little controversial to some, I think. But for the most part, people are getting on board, and the people who were at one point not in favor of it are using the service and really enjoying it and getting the most out of it. And I think they're starting to see how important it was to the area for us to have this kind of service.
I think the truth is in the numbers, Chris, because we do continue to grow, and the more and more people that hop onto this network, the more people realize how good internet is supposed to operate, and what they had before was insufficient, and so we continue to grow, and the numbers are there. So at the end of the day, people realize the importance of it.
Right. I would expect that your churn rate is probably quite low. I mean, not only do you have a very high quality network that RS Fiber owns, but to have HBC as a partner, which is known as a very, very good local ISP, it's got to be terrific.
Yes, exactly. No, our churn rate is very low. Once people hook up to this network, they have a tough time going back to what they had before. That's for sure.
So I'm curious, and if there's any stories in particular, whether it's a business or a person. Jake, you just mentioned that people didn't really know what good internet access was before. Jenny or Jake, is there any stories that come to mind that would sort of illustrate this with a personal touch?
I can certainly talk about my own family. Our household and our farm is just flooded with devices, and once you have that quality internet connection, it really just blows the doors wide open for what your network is capable of, and what technology is available to you. Because before RS Fiber, there were lots of things that in terms of technology and farming, that were available. But, you'd kind of see the marketing material and you'd think, well, I don't think our internet connection would handle that. So then that was about as far as you got. And you never really jumped on the technology bandwagon, because you knew that your internet connection would struggle with it. And, the funny thing is once people do have a high quality internet connection, you really take it for granted really quickly. You forget what it was like, what you had before. I mean, it's kind of like if you've ever lived in a third world country where the power might flicker in and out. We don't get that so much here in the U.S., but But whenever you have a power outage, you know it right away. And the same is true as internet. Once you used to that high quality internet connection, it's really easy to take it for granted and forget what life was like before it.
And Jenny, I know that you do double duty as the head of economic development for Winthrop, so I'm hoping you're collecting some of these stories.
Well, we do, and we have some pretty big industries in Winthrop. Winfield Solutions, Heartland Core Products, United Farmer Co-op is headquartered here. Both UFC and Heartland are big proponents and big backers of the project, and it's helped their industries out tremendously. I know Winfield Solutions is also, they were at one point providing free Wi-Fi in their parking lots for people to use to work or do schoolwork or whatnot. There's JTI Services uses the RS Fiber broadband for their services. We have 2 clinics in town that have really taken advantage of it as well for home visits and things like that. I don't know that there's one big story to say about it, but all of our industry have benefited greatly for having the fiber network here.
One of the things that I'm always curious about with these networks is the wireless experience. I think if you go back to the 5 years ago, there was an expectation that fiber would be marching out into the townships more by now, but also probably that the wireless wouldn't be as good as it is today. And so I'm curious. I mean, Jake, you're, I think, at 50 by 25 or so. How is that in terms of, I know you said multiple devices. When my colleague Rye did an interview with you recently, he said your daughter was playing games at the same time. So you bandwidth to spare, but is it meeting the needs then and will for the foreseeable future?
The one thing I would say about the wireless, it really does meet the needs for our family. But the one thing I would say is the latency is a little higher than you'd see on a fiber network. As more and more households need more bandwidth, especially in times of a pandemic, and more and more people are on Zoom and using video applications. So as more and more people need more bandwidth on the wireless side, the heavier tax that you feel on the equipment. So I really think that fiber is still the end game. If we were able to get fiber out to all of the farms in the countryside, I think you could sit back and you say our work is done here. Whereas on the wireless side, it's a little more questionable. I am really happy with our service, but there are days when you wonder what it would be like to have a fiber optic connection. But as you can see, I mean, everything here is working properly. The one thing about wireless is it does take a little more work to maintain it. Towers and stuff, will sometimes they're be hit by lightning or power surges, and so they're a little more sensitive to truck rolls, and you need a little more work to maintain the setup, and if somebody's wireless receiver goes down or something like that, it costs a little more money to maintain, that's for sure. But we're really happy to have access to this network out here.
And if I remember correctly, I think you started with like 8 or 10 towers, but you're more than double that now. So yeah. I'm guessing that's been a really helpful in dealing with the load from the pandemic and people
right.
Working from home, all the kids at home.
Yeah, definitely. You wanna be able to spread out those homes across as many towers as you can, and it does help handle that excess bandwidth better. But what it really does is improve our coverage and just give our installers a lot more options for where they can pull a signal from. So you might have a grove blocking the north side of your home, and then it would make it challenging to get that wireless receiver on the other side of the grove. Well, the more access points you have out there, the easier it is for installers to grab a signal.
I have to think, and this just popped into my head, but being a co-op with so much local community support, you must have plenty of options for when you need to put up a new tower. I'm guessing people are probably pretty accommodating.
Yeah, there's lots of farmer grain legs out there. I've got a few of my neighbors connected off of my silo here. We've got 4 receivers on our silo, and it kind of triangulates to improve to catch our neighbors who have a little tougher time catching the water tower in Fairfax. So yeah, no, there's a ton of tall structures out here. Really, our biggest nemesis is valleys in like the Minnesota river bottom. Those are really difficult to and challenging to try and get signal down in there.
I think one of the other challenges, as I understand it, Jenny, is that we would like to, I think many of these areas definitely need more money to build out, but because you're doing a good job of already meeting needs, you're now at the bottom of the list for subsidies. And so I'm curious if you have a sense of how you come out of that challenge ultimately.
More subscribers. It is a struggle because every year the question comes up, do we qualify for grants? Do we qualify for grants? And I was on the Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition for a while. And, that was always the number one. Do we help get the people built out who need it? Or do we help the people who are in the middle of projects? And it always went to the people who needed to be built out. So we always do fall down to the bottom of the list when it comes to getting money, but there is still a need here and we still have areas that need to be built out. So, it's kind of a catch-22.
Yes. The sense I had was that there would be, I think, more potential with the new markets tax credits. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I'm curious, do you have any sense of whether the original plan for financing was maybe too ambitious or missed certain nuances, or was it just a matter of this was always the hard issue that was down the road?
I think this was always the hard issue that was down the road. I think it's always nice to put a plan together, but how often does the plan actually follow through the way you think it will? Everybody knew there were going to be struggles coming. Most of us were hoping that they weren't coming, but it is what it is essentially. And I wouldn't change it for a thing. I'm so glad we have it here. And there's people who would pay double what we're paying for a fiber connection like we have here. And I think the more people that are getting on it now truly understand that.
I'm one of them. I love having 40 megabits up on my cable connection, and that's as good as it gets on a cable connection. But
that's frustrating.
Now, I am curious, have you seen new competition? Because there was talk that the telephone company in your area might try to build more, or I guess maybe it was nearby that it was building.
We have a local phone company who has been working on building out some fiber. I don't believe it's fiber to the home. I could be wrong about that. But they have built out one of the townships that did decide not to become part of RS fiber project. And they have been doing some work in Winthrop too. So I think our service is better, but that's, I don't have any experience with their fiber connection either. So.
Right. No, and I don't want to put you on the spot. I think it's always interesting how it is not uncommon that we see more investment following one very strong investment into an area. So I like to.
Mediacom has done some work too. They've come out here and they've upped everybody's bandwidth. They've upped their data caps and things like that. They still have data caps though, which is something RS Fiber doesn't have, and which in my home anyway, with 2 kids and my husband online all the time, those data caps, we'd blow through them in a week.
Yes. Yeah. If we had a lot more live sports earlier in the pandemic, I think more people would have become accustomed to that. So because all the sports stopped, we had some of that less streaming perhaps. So Jake, one of the things about Mediacom reminds me also is that I think in the cities where Mediacom was active prior, they also really lowered the prices. And do you have any sense of how much economic impact the network has had in terms of people just saving money, even if they're not taking your services?
Yeah, you certainly did see more competition on the price side because that's what these big companies tend to do is, they're not going to make the big investment and replace their entire network with fiber. What they can do is make their product cheaper. So yeah, no, definitely. I don't know the exact dollar number, but I do certainly know that when they started hemorrhaging customers to us, they tried to react, and the way that these big ISPs react is by dropping their prices, and they haven't been able to do too much for a better service. And I know we picked up a ton of customers in Fairfax because they were having issues south of the railroad tracks, and they just couldn't get it figured out for some reason. So all of a sudden there was just this big flood of incoming customers because their service was having issues for one reason or another.
So 10 years ago, neither of you knew much about telecom, I'm guessing. and if you think back, I'm just curious, now as board members managing this enterprise and paying attention to this, one of them is like lightning hits towers, but like what are your kind of your surprises? Like what would you have been surprised to know then that you now maybe take for granted today?
I think probably the biggest surprise was one that hit me early on, which is that fiber is really always going to be necessary. I think a lot of people don't realize that technology moves quick, right? And constantly there's stuff coming out every 5 years, new iPhones, new whatever it may be, new devices. But at the backbone, at the foundation of all that, it's going to take a fiber optic connection, in my opinion. You've got stuff happening on the satellite side. You've got stuff happening, on the fixed wireless side, sure. But at the end of the day, if you want to solve the problem, you get fiber to every home in the U.S. and you're done.
And the amounts of broadband that people are using, 5 years ago, they said, oh, you wouldn't need more than, 100 megs or whatever. And now the technology that's come out just in the last 2 or 3 years, people are using double and triple the bandwidth that they were just a number of years ago. Yeah,
I think one of the things that people miss is that even if every device doesn't significantly increase, just the fact that there's going to be so many more devices that all are doing interesting little things. So I guess one of the things I'm curious about, I remember I was there at that meeting when it became clear that RS Fiber was not going to be able to fully cover the debt payments to the cities. The thing I took away from that meeting was people were basically like, okay, well, that's disappointing, but we want the network to be done more quickly. Like it was sort of like, okay, that's sad, but we would really like, just make sure we have the network that you now have today. And so I'm curious now, more than 2 years later, how are the numbers looking in terms of the customers? I mean, you certainly said that you're growing, but are you back on track to eventually take back over the levy and things like that?
When we put the refinance together, we put together projections that showed a modest amount of growth over the next few years. And basically what those projections told us was that we were going to be able to resume payments to the cities in a 7 to 9 year time frame. And we are still on track for that time frame to come to fruition. And actually, there's potential that it could happen sooner, but we don't want to get the cart in front of the horse. We don't want to promise anything that we can't see through.
Mm-hmm. And has that been pretty well, accepted then? I mean, if I remember correctly, do you have the numbers of the impact per household? I think it was on the order that many households are probably still paying, if you combine the taxes and the service fees that they're paying today, they're still in the same ballpark relatively of what they had been paying before. So people have better service at about the same chunk out of the household budget, I think. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, I would say. And we did just refinance the bonds too and saved some money on interest too with the lower interest rates. So that was very helpful for the cities. That lowered everybody's payment around 10%. So.
And I guess one of the things, since Jake, you're on the line, when we looked at, there's an approach in Michigan that where they raise taxes on themselves. And one of the things that I learned quickly was that averages can really hit farmers hard. So, I don't know if the co-ops in Winthrop, for instance, if they've taken a bigger chunk of that and if they just see that as the cost of doing business. And I know that you can't speak for them, but I'm just curious if you have a sense of perception.
I think the businesses in Winthrop are just happy to have such a high quality internet connection at such a reasonable rate. You phrased it in the households that, the households are saving money with their telecom bills. So businesses are saving money with their telecom bills almost like tenfold. I don't know what the number is, but RS Fiber's business pricing is just exponentially smaller than what the big ISPs are doing. So I remember for a long time, at UFC, people were, why aren't you charging more? I mean, this product is worth so much more, and we're like, well, these are our rates, and we're happy to give them to you for a fair price.
I think it is hard to even compare a slow, unreliable DSL connection or a cable connection of the like that Mediacom had several years ago. Just you can try to compare the prices, but honestly, moving from a 5 megabit or slower connection to 50, 100, a gig, it changes the way your business can operate just fundamentally. I mean, it really gives you, it's a whole different experience. I'm guessing.
Absolutely. I don't know how we distance learn our children right now if we didn't have the internet connection that we have. I honestly have no idea how it would work because the connection that we had before couldn't really handle the upload. The video would be blocky, the audio would be choppy, and when you look at it, especially in times of a pandemic, it's absolutely critical that the infrastructure is there to handle it.
Now, both of you, so Jake, you're chair of the board, and Jenny, you are there as both economic development, talking with lots of other folks, and the administrator for the city of Winthrop. I'm guessing both of you are regularly getting calls from folks saying, "Hey, when are you going to expand this? We'd really like to be a part of this. There's some counties around you that have some need." Do you have any sense? I mean, in some ways, it may be easier for you to expand to folks you're not serving than to improve from wireless to fiber in areas that you already are serving. And so, have you been able to give that any thought?
And you're absolutely right. The grants are focused on new areas and not improving existing customers. So we did kind of shoot ourselves in the foot here by serving our rural wireless customers with fixed wireless, because this area is considered served with that 50-25 service. So it makes this area very difficult to apply for grant funds because they're considered served. But we did receive a grant allocation through some CARES funding. That allocation in Renville County funded an additional 6 towers. So we are expanding wirelessly into Renville County. By the time it's all said and done, we will have 10 total towers up and running there in the Renville side, and we should be able to cover somewhere between 40 to 50% of the rural customers there in Renville County. And so we are expanding wirelessly. As far as fiber expansion, that's not something that we are financially positioned to be able to do.
Jenny, did you want to add on to that at all? I mean, I could just imagine people coming to you and trying to.
Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Nicollet County interested in having us expand out that way too?
That's right.
That just wasn't in our financial plan at this time. There are other counties that are very much interested in being part of the project now.
I always have to check in too. Is there any lingering frustration from, was it Arlington that chose not to join and had some considerable debate over it?
We get contacted from time to time from individuals in Arlington, but they've never really put together a formal effort to provide an offer to us.
I know that I was talking to someone over there in an office building, and they were frustrated because their Zoom meetings they keep getting kicked out of their Zoom meetings for the city. And I thought, well, that's too bad.
You didn't know that happened.
Yeah. But I know we do have some, we do serve people with the air towers in Arlington, and the people that we serve there are happy with the service.
I wanted to end by just saying that I don't know if you all think about this much, but there was a moment there when there was some stress, I think, between the cities, the co-op, and HBC, in which the board had to make some pretty difficult decisions about how to move forward. And the co-op could have decided to just kind of walk away from the cities and not make a refinance plan in which the co-op would still resume payment And it's the kind of thing that I think, it's a decision that you could have made. You chose not to. It probably would have led to decades of feuding, the sort of town versus counties and sort of the frustrations that can do that. And do you ever come back to that and just think, wow, I'm really glad we did the right thing and we upheld our obligation?
Yeah, the city's having skin in the game like that. It really changed the calculus when it comes to financial difficulties. And especially internally on the board, there was just such a resistance to have to, just to say goodbye to the Joint Powers Board that it really forced all the partners involved to figure out a solution that worked for all of us. And ultimately we found a solution, and HBC Sures stepped up with their senior secured financing, and we had we at least have a path in mind to repay those cities in the 7 to 9 year time frame. And so yeah, we had our backs up against the walls there for a while, but after the refinance, and it's really looking positive now. We just keep churning away, just need to keep growing, and ultimately we'll get everything back together.
And Jenny, I know that you feel good about that decision.
Oh, yes. The city administrator side of me is very happy about that.
I think it's a good note to end on, because it's been a lot of years of political polarization, and in here you have a dynamic of towns versus the ag producers, and the argument from the beginning was always that you all needed each other to thrive, and I think you've demonstrated that, and I just hope other people can take note of that, and that even when the going gets tough, you can still pull together to get through these things.
The township's really so supportive of this project yet, even though the phase 2 part of the plan hasn't even gotten pen to paper, but they are still in 100%, and it's incredible how supportive that they still are.
That's great. Thank you both for taking time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
That was Christopher talking with Jake Reekie and Jenny Palmer. We have transcripts for this and other podcasts available at muninetworks.org/broadbandbits. Email us at podcast@muninetworks.org with your ideas for the show. Follow Chris on Twitter. His handle is @CommunityNets. Follow muninetworks.org stories on Twitter. The handle is @muninetworks. Subscribe to this and other podcasts from ILSR, including Building Local Power, Local Energy Rules, and the Composting for Community podcast. You can access them anywhere you get your podcasts. You can catch the latest important research from all of our initiatives if you subscribe to our monthly newsletter at ilsr.org. While you're there, please take a moment to donate. Your support in any amount keeps us going. Thank you to Arnie Hughesby for the song Warm Duck Shuffle, licensed through Creative Commons. This was episode 440 of the Community Broadband Bits podcast. Thanks for listening.